Hello, everybody, and welcome to Unit 4 of Algebra 1, the big old word problems unit. So get excited, everybody. Luckily, today we're not going to be working at all on solving any of these problems. We're just going to be working on how to translate different things before we jump into some of these different types of problems. But it's important for us to understand uh, how all these different words look in terms of algebra. So today we're talking about just translating these verbal phrases into math, into algebra. So put on your translating hats and away we go. So first thing we're going to do is just in this little graphic organizer here, we're going to give some different words that you might see in reference to a plus, a minus, a multiplication symbol, and a division symbol. So the first thing that you're going to see, let's just stick with the obvious ones here. So added, to, or by, right? That's what we know the addition sign means. You could also see there's the other obvious one, plus. You see a plus, you probably should put a plus sign. Sum is another word for addition. Increased by is another one. And then another one, and I'm actually going to highlight this one. We're going to say more than. And the reason I'm going to highlight this one is because it's a little backwards. It still means addition, but we're going to talk about what I mean by backwards here in just a moment. Let's talk about subtraction. So there are a couple obvious ones, right? You've got your subtracted by or minus, right? Again, you see minus, you should probably put a minus sign. Hopefully those are the kind of obvious ones there. Just like sum means addition, difference means subtraction, okay? Very good. We've also got decreased by means subtraction, decreased by, or less than. And I'm going to highlight less than again, just like I highlighted more than. I'm going to highlight less than because, again, in just a moment, we're going to talk about how that one's a little bit backwards. And you'll see what I mean here just in just a second. Moving on to multiplication. We've got the couple obvious ones. We've got multiplied by. We've got times, right? These are things you've definitely seen before. The other one is product. So when you see the word products, that means the answer of a multiplication problem. Sometimes you'll also see, and this one's a little bit more rare, but I'll put it anyway, but groups of. Right? If you see groups of in a problem, like if you see 7 groups of 5, that would be something like 7 times 5. Just a small one and a pretty rare one, but good to know. And last but not least, we have division. We'll do a nice shade of orange for division. We've got the obvious one. Again, we've got divided by, right? Divided by is kind of the obvious one there. And then the other one, similar to sum, difference, or product, we've got the quotient is the answer to a division problem, the quotient. The other one, kind of like groups of for multiplication, something you might see with division that's kind of rare, but portions of, right? If you've got 2 portions of 8, that's the same thing as saying 8 divided by 2, right? Each portion would have 4 in it, of whatever you're talking about. Maybe it's cookies, whatever the case is, right? So just another kind of rare one there, but good to know. So let's talk about how these actually translate. So we're going to do some fill in the blank, and then we're going to write what that would look like. So the first one is the blank of 6 in a number. Well, we'd be saying something like the sum of 6 in a number, just so you know something there. Hello. Right? But the sum of 6 in a number would be 6 plus that number, right? So for all of these, we'll just call the number x, right? But it really could be any variable. It could be n, it could be y, it could be w for all I care, but we'll call them x for all of these. 8 blank blank a number, right? So we'll say 8 less than a number. Okay, well, I'm sorry. Whoops, we're talking about addition here. That's my bad. 8 more than a number. Okay, so this is one of the ones that I said is kind of backwards, which is why I highlighted it. So I'm going to highlight it again here. But if you have 8 more than a number, it's not actually, I'll do this in red so you know it's not true. It's not 8 plus x, which is kind of the way the phrasing would lead you to believe. It's actually going to be x plus 8. Okay, so if it's 8 more than a number, it's the number plus 8. Okay, so good thing to know. This one's a little tough, right? It's kind of backwards. It doesn't affect us as much with addition, but when you get to subtraction, we'll see something here in just a moment that actually does make quite a big deal. Moving on here, a number plus 5. Well, this one's kind of back to our normal order, so we have the number plus sign 5, right? Generally speaking, unless it's one of those two highlighted ones, you're just kind of going in the order given to you, right? So a number x plus is a plus sign 5, and then a number increased by 7. Increased by 7. So again, a number is x, increased by means plus, and 7. And there you go. Those are all your different verbal phrases that you might see for addition. Moving on to subtraction. Sorry, I also don't know if you can hear my son crying in the background, but he's up from his nap and he's not pleased about it. He wants me to come get him, but hey, there's math to be done. So here we go. There is math to be done. So now we're talking about subtraction. So we've got the difference. Just like sum means plus, the difference of 5 and a number, right? So if you see the difference of two things, right, you're talking about, well, again, difference is subtraction, and it's between 5 and a number, so just go in order. So it's the 5 minus the number, right? For less than a number, this is, again, just like more than, this is the one I highlighted because it's kind of backwards, right? But this is the one where instead of, you're not going to do 4 minus the number, it's backwards, right? If you've got 4 less than something, you need to take the something, which in this case is the number, minus 4. Okay, so this one is the backwards one. I'm going to put a little star by it. That's important. That's going to come up over and over again in this chapter, and it's something we just got to get down. Okay, 7 minus a number. Okay, now we're just going back to going in order. So 7 minus is a minus sign. The number is x. And a number decreased by 9. Decreased by 9. So again, in order. The number is x. Decreased by means minus. And 9. There you go. Multiplication. Here we go. The product of 9 and a number, right? So product means multiplication, and it's between 9. So 9 times a number, so 9 times x, or 9x, right? 10 times a number, right? So 10 times a number, or 10x, and a number, let's see, multiplied by 3. Okay, so a number multiplied by 3 really is going to look like x times 3, but hopefully we recognize that's really just 3x, all the same, right? So the original order is x times 3, but remember, when you're multiplying, the coefficient, the number piece comes out front, and then your variable. Okay, moving on, last but not least, we've got division. The first one is the blank of a number and 4, so this is the quotient of a number and 4. And so hopefully you're recognizing sum, difference, product, and quotient. Those are all these different words for the answers of these, right? So hopefully you'll start to get those straight. Sum and difference hopefully are old news to you all, but product and quotient may be somewhat new. But this is just saying the quotient between a number and 4, that's saying the number divided by 4. Okay? And then last but not least, 7 divided by a number is going to be 7 divided by that number. Generally speaking, for division, yes, I know this is saying the same thing, x divided by 4 or 7 divided by x. This is the better way to write it. We generally speaking, now that we're in algebra, want to get in the habit of seeing division as a fraction, right? Because that's what division is. This is kind of old school stuff, right? This is the stuff we did in middle school and elementary school. Division is a fraction. Get used to it. They're not going anywhere. Here we go. Translate each phrase into a variable expression or equation. Okay, so the sum of 6 and a number, well, sum, hopefully remember, means plus, right? So the sum of 6 and a number These are the other ones that kind of go a little out of order, but sum means the answer to an addition statement. So it's the sum, it's going to be plus, of 6 and a number. And there you go. Now we're moving into some other ones. So again, the sum of 6 and a number is 12. So sum is still plus. We've got the 6 and the number, so that part's going to look the same. It's still 6 plus x. But now I've got this other piece here where it says is 12. Is 12. Well, the word is generally means equals to, or it means an equal sign, I should say, is 12. And there you go. 6 plus x equals 12. I recognize we could solve that, but we don't need to. Right? That's our final answer for this one. Okay, number 3, the sum of 6 and a number. Hopefully we're recognizing we've got the sum of 6 and a number for several of these here, but that's always going to look the same. The sum of 6 and a number is 6 plus x, right? 6 plus x for both of these next ones is less than 12. Okay, so is means equals to, but notice this isn't just is anymore. This is less than. Well, we know what a less than sign looks like, right? Is less than 12. Okay, last one like this. The sum of 6 and a number is greater than or equal to 12. Well, again, this is just telling us the sign we use. 6 plus x is greater than or equal to, so write a greater than or equal to sign, 12. Okay, these are a bunch of different ways you could see this. Okay, now we're going to get into some slightly more complex ones. 3 less than half of x. 3 less than half of x. Well, first of all, I see less than, right? This is that special one. Hopefully you remember that less than means subtraction, right? But this is one of those special ones where this is kind of flipped around. So before we worry about the 3 less than, it's not going to look like 3 minus something. No, right? It's going to be something minus 3. Well, that something is half of x. Well, what's half of x look like? Half of x is x divided by 2, or x over 2. And there you go, right? Remember, the less than means subtraction, but this is the one that's flipped around. So we don't want to do 3 minus half of x. We want to do half of x, or x over 2, minus 3. Very good. Half the difference between x and 3. Okay, half the difference between x and 3. So here's another important piece here. Whenever you see things like sum or difference, right, you essentially want to handle those first, right? The difference between x and 3 looks like x minus 3, okay? And half of that would be x minus 3 over 2, right? So a lot of times when you see something like sum or difference or product or whatever, a lot of times people will put those in parentheses, right? Because you're essentially handling those first. We want half of the entire difference between x minus 3. So we're not taking half of the x or half of the 3, we're taking half of both of them, okay? Number 7, twice the sum of a number, and 4 is 10. Okay, so again, I see sum. This is where the parentheses are going to come into play here. So sum means addition. So the sum of a number and 4 is going to look like x plus 4. And I'm going to put that in parentheses because it's twice that sum. So twice implies that we're multiplying by 2, right? So twice that sum is, which means equals 10. Whew, we're getting interesting here. This one's complicated. If you don't quite get this one, I'm not going to say it's okay. Ideally, we want to get this one, but it is definitely a little bit challenging. So it says the product of 7 and the sum of twice the number x and 3 is 126. Okay, so I see the word sum here. So let's worry about that first. So, and I'll put it in parentheses, right? Because we want to find the whole sum first, and then we'll take the product of 7 and that. So the sum of twice the number x, well, twice the number x looks like x and 3. So 2x plus 3. And then the product of 7 and that looks like, well, 7 times that. Nice and easy. Is 126. So the product of 7 and the sum of twice the number x and 3 is equals 126. Whew, that one was tricky. Take a moment to think about it, and hopefully that one will make sense to you. But if not, we can definitely talk through some questions tomorrow. All right, getting into some slightly different ones here. Complete each statement with a variable expression. So number 9 says the length of a board is L centimeters. Then the length of a board 7 centimeters shorter is blank. Well, if it's shorter, right, it's 7 centimeters less, so that's going to be L minus 7, right? So shorter in this particular instance refers to a minus sign. So similar situation number 10, if the length of a board is L centimeters, then the length of a board 6 centimeters longer is L plus 6, right? So longer refers to a plus sign in this case. Last few here. The sum of two numbers is 15. If one number is x, then the other number is blank. Okay, so this one we kind of need to figure out. Okay, well, we have two numbers in question, so we're going to call them x and y. So we know one of the numbers is x. So it says the sum of two numbers, so let's say x plus y, is, that's an equal sign, 15. Well, if one of the numbers is x, then the other number is, so we want to find the other number. We want to find y. So this kind of goes back to solving those literal equations. We want to solve this for y. So that means we're going to subtract x from both sides. So we get y equals 15 minus x. So the other number is 15 minus x. That's going to be an important concept in some of these word problems here, this unit. Getting close to the end here. Juan has 4 times as much money as Tim does. If Juan has D dollars, Tim has blank. Okay, so Juan has D dollars. So if Juan's money is D, Juan has, so has is kind of like is, right? D equals, how much does Juan have? 4 times as much money as Tim. So that's going to be 4 times, we'll call Tim's money, we'll call it T. Okay, so Tim then would have, we want to solve for the T, right? To solve for the T, if this is 4 times T, we want to divide by 4. So hopefully we find that T equals however much Juan has, D, divided by 4. So Tim has D over 4, D divided by 4. Last but not least, the difference between two numbers is 9. The smaller number is T, the larger number is, all right, let's see here. So let's think about this. The difference between two numbers is 9. Well, the smaller number is T, so it's going to be something minus T equals 9. We just need to figure out, well, what do we want to call this other number? Let's call it B for big, right, and T for tiny. So B minus T is 9. The larger number is, so we're finding that B. Well, to get the B by itself, let's add the T. So B would equal 9 plus T, or T plus 9. Either way you want to think about it, but we'll call it 9 plus T. And there you go. Those last three were definitely challenging. They were a step up because you need to figure out what it was saying and then solve it a certain way. But for the most part, hopefully, most of these words should sound familiar to you. We've done some word problems before. One of the big concepts is that more than versus less than, right, as you're translating, so be very careful with that. Other than that, your homework is the 4.1 homework. Take a look at it. Pretty much all of this is just exactly like the notes. You're going to take some time and translate, and you've got an answer key at the bottom. So please make sure you check your answers. And otherwise, thank you. Welcome to Unit 4. We're going to crush some word problems. Nice job, everybody.